Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to go through and do my favorite reads from 2025, but I'm only going to do the top 10. I know in my reading journal, you'll see like in my reading journal flip through that I did one from each month, but I went in and I narrowed it down to my top 10. So I'm going to go ahead and go through those. Okay, so starting off with number 10, I have Wild and Wrinkled by Lila Sage. This one is the last one in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and this one is Cam and Dusty's story. I think I gave this a 4.5. I actually don't quite remember what I gave all of these, but I know they're between a 4 and a 5 star. So I believe, give this one either a 4.5 or a 4.25. I think I ranked it lower than Lost and Lassoed, so I think I gave it a 4.25. But I still did really enjoy this one, even though this one wasn't my favorite of the entire series. My favorite is Lost and Lassoed, and then I think it's Done and Dusted, and then it's this one. So this is like my third overall in the series. I liked their story, and I liked seeing them like come back together and like find each other again after being high school sweethearts and then breaking up and them going through a bunch of things like on their own. But I just also didn't find myself really caring as much for their story as I did for Gus and Teddy's and Luke and Emmy's. And then number 9, I have People We Meet on Vacation. I want to say I gave this one a 4 stars. I read this when I went to Mexico in May. And I really enjoyed Poppy and Alex's story. But again, it just kind of was a little bit boring for me compared to the other 2 books that I read by Emily Henry. But I still did really enjoy this, and I do enjoy her writing, so I will continue to pick up the other 3 books by her that I need to read. And then I have, as number 8, I have The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This one I also gave a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. This was the first Riley Sager book that I have ever read by him, so I was very much happy that it was good because I've heard a lot of mixed things about... I've heard really mixed things about Riley Sager in general. Some people really enjoy his books. Some people like a couple of his books, and then his other ones fall flat for them and they don't really like them as much, or they just don't really like his books in general. But this, like I said, was the first one that I have read by him, and I did really end up enjoying it. And I do have 3 other books by him to read because I did read one of the other books by him that I had, but I do enjoy his writing. So yeah. And then number 6, or 7, I have Abby Jimenez's Just for the Summer. I think I gave this one a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I loved Emma and Justin's story. I like how it wasn't like they met in person. They like started by meeting over the internet via a Reddit thread, because they both have this like love curse where every time they date somebody and then they break up with them, they end up finding their true love, or their like the person that's meant for them, like the love of their life. That's what I was looking for, the love of their life, and they just haven't been able to find that yet. So they end up like making this deal to date each other and then break up with each other so that they can find their love of their lives. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And then number 6, I have Daydream by Hannah Grace. I gave this one a 4.75 stars, although I think I might have to drop it to a 4.5 just because I don't think about it as often as I thought I would be thinking about it. But I still did enjoy Hallie and Henry's story, and I thought that it was really cute, their story, and I did connect a lot more to Hallie than I have to her other characters. Anastasia, I think is what her name is in Icebreaker, and Aurora in Wildfire. I felt like I connected a lot more to Hallie than I did to those 2. But yeah. And then number 5, I have Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. I mentioned this one when I was talking about Wild and Wrinkled, but again, I really loved Gus and Teddy's story. I think I gave this one a 4.5, maybe a 4.75. I'm not sure. I think it was a 4.5 though. But I very much enjoyed this one by Lila Sage. I loved Gus and Teddy's story. I think I loved it just as much as Luke and Emmy's story, and I love them. Ooh. And then number 5, right? Number 4, I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is it's not the first Dark Academia I've read, because I have read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. That one was actually one of the first Dark Academias I've read. So this is the second Dark Academia I've read, but this is also one of the first ones with like a fantasy element in it. I know I've read Salem's Lot by Stephen King that has a fantasy element in it. And there's a couple of other books that I've read that have that in there too. But this was one of the ones that I really enjoyed reading, just because I have found, since I've started reading and getting back into reading, that I really enjoy Dark Academia books. And I really like the idea of there being like secret societies for these certain things. And yeah. This one is Alex Stern's story, so it's this one, and then there's Hellbent, which I'm reading later this year, and then there's also another one, the third one coming out for her this year as well, that I'm hoping maybe I can get to when it comes out, because I know it's coming out in the fall. But I very much enjoyed this story, and I can't say too much about it because it gives it away kind of, but seeing Alex figuring out her role in this secret society and what she's supposed to be doing, and then the added mystery on top of it when I don't know if it's a spoiler or not. Yeah, I think it is a spoiler, so I can't really say it, but something happens with her mentor and she has to figure out what's going on, and it's very much, I just wanted to keep reading it and keep going and keep seeing what was going to happen, so I really enjoyed this one. And then I have number 3, I have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This is the second book that I've read by him. I read the Final Girl Support Group 2024, I want to say, and I did enjoy it. It just was kind of not as interesting as I thought it was going to be. I did like the premise of the main characters in that one being based off of characters from popular horror movies, so like Scream, Carrie, Halloween. I think there were a couple of other ones because there were 5 of them total. But anyways, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires is actually set in like 1990s, 1980s. I think also maybe the 1970s. 80s mostly. 80s and 90s. It's set in the 80s and 90s in Charleston, South Carolina, which I thought was really cool, like the suburbs of Charleston, which I thought was really interesting and really cool. And it follows this book club of mothers, and kind of more specifically one lady in the book club who discovers that this new guy that moves into town isn't quite who he says he is, quite who he says he is, and he just has strange occurrences occurring around him, and it kind of throws her red flags up. So she starts like investigating him and trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's very good. And I really liked how he portrayed vampires in this, because like I said, I have read Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and there are vampires in that one, which might be a spoiler. But the way Grady Hendrix wrote vampires in this is similar but different to how Stephen King wrote vampires. Stephen King's vampires are very much more like classic vampire. This is like kind of a twist on vampires, and I thought it was really cool and really interesting to how he wrote vampires in this. And then number 2 is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is one that I just read in December, so you would have seen that in my October-December wrap-up. But anyways, I gave this one a 4.75, and I think I said I gave the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, I think I said I gave it a 4.5 or a 4.75. But I gave this one a 4.75. I absolutely loved reading this. I had the time of my life reading this. I was like on the edge of my seat, wanting to know what was happening, wanting to know more about what was going on in this world and what was happening between our 2 main characters, Citra and Rowan, and their journey into the Scythehood. I think it's actually called the Scythedom. But I was just so interested in this and what they were going through in this, and I can't wait to pick up the rest of this series. But yeah, this one was also very good. This is a YA dystopian as well, which I found that YA isn't really my thing anymore, but I've noticed that a lot of times, like if it's dystopian, I'm still like good reading it and it'll still be very interesting for me. So that's number 2. And then number 1, this one should come as no surprise. Well, it might. But this was the only 5-star read that I had in 2025, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. And actually, if I could, I would give it more than 5 stars, but I can't. So this is like one of my like top reads ever, like 6-star reads. Like it's up there with The Great Gatsby for me. And I absolutely love The Great Gatsby. I adore The Great Gatsby. It's the one book that I continuously reread every year. And I actually do plan on going through and rereading the entirety of the Hunger Games series this year because I read the original trilogy when I was in middle school. So about a couple of years after they all came out, around when the movies were coming out, I read the original Hunger Games trilogy and I loved the Hunger Games. It like basically became my entire personality when I was in middle school, but I absolutely love the Hunger Games and I love the movies and I love the books. And so I read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I think in 2024. Yeah, 2024. I read it like towards the end of 2024. And I really enjoyed that one. I think I also gave that one a 5-star, maybe a 4.75, but I think I actually gave it 5. But I also gave this one a 5-star. I was so excited for Haymitch's story and to finally like see the non-propaganda version of his story, like how you see, because in the original trilogy you see like his games and his story, but through like the propaganda part of it that the Capitol put out for everybody to see. But this like actually goes through him being in the games and what he goes through prior to the games and what he goes through after the games, and why you kind of can see why he becomes who he becomes in the original trilogy, which I absolutely loved. I loved, as you can tell, I absolutely loved seeing his games like actually panned out, not the propaganda version that the Capitol pushes. But yeah, I cannot stop obviously talking about this one, so I'm going to cut myself off. But yeah, and I know this one did have mixed reviews because a lot of people were disappointed with like his story and it not like portraying why he became who he became, but I loved it. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to stop myself from talking about this one because I will go on for days about Hunger Games and Sunrise on the Reaping. Okay, those are my top 10 books from 2025 that I read. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.